Previously on Heart and Minds Aloud.
A mother is never really alone in her thoughts. A mother has to think twice, once for herself and once for her child. I completely agree with Sophia Loren's statement, particularly because of my guest for this episode. Her journey of motherhood has been exacting, a complete test of her strength, considering that she took up this role while putting herself through school and being employed full-time, and she did it with such grace. If you listen to her, you would consider her somewhat of a superhero. I know I did. I was humbled speaking to Maame Yaa Barnes.
Feeling the anger that it's your first child. Really, did you have to deal with this at this time? I'm only 27. Do I have to really go through this, at this time? So every time for me, feeling all of these, and I won't deny a little bit of resentment that, something I had looked forward to so long, I couldn't get. So you have joy, anger, pain, resentment, all of these are mixed up. And then you feel guilty that you feel all of these because you are so close to this person, but you can't be fully happy for the person because of your own challenges. So it was difficult. It was a difficult time on several levels because the person I would have opened up to, the person I would have cried on, I couldn't open up to that person. I couldn't be honest that seeing your son hurts me. Nobody wants to hear that. And so it was an uncomfortable situation, but my sisters are amazing. And so, like I said, my older sister is the one who first came for me when she was like, no, your mind is not in a happy place. You need to come home. And when it was my son, it was the second born, Mami, who came and said, I know you can't talk to me about this because I know you enough to know that there's so many things going on in your head, and you're even feeling guilty that you can't love Chili the way you love the boys, the older two, because of the conflict that you are feeling right now. And I want to tell you, it's okay to feel it this way. And so she took me away, a fully paid weekend away, and just said, lie in the pool, play a game, whatever it is, just for just one day, pretend that you are the person you used to be and just enjoy this moment. The problems will be there when we get back anyway. So I think that it was really good. I would never have gone to them. And also because I always think if it's going to be a lasting problem, people will get tired if you keep complaining. So why say it? And so for them to come to me, it took some of the tension away, and for them to not, especially for Mami to not hold it against me that I couldn't visit her as often as I remember one time I went to visit her boys, and she had gone away to do her BCL at Oxford at the time, and so I went to visit the boys. It took a lot of courage for me to go. And I remember that it was the Friday before I had my law of evidence exam on Monday. And I don't know what possessed me to choose that timing, because I literally spent the rest of the weekend crying. Seeing my nephew, by that time he was tottering on his, how babies do that, they slip and fall and they are so cute. And then I came home and he was chattering, because he's the last born, so hearing his older brothers, he picked up speech quite quickly, and I came home to an absolute silent home, but my son was still there. He was there, and yet there was no sound. And I remember that I just came home and I wept. I cried, I really cried. And I think Sunday evening I woke up. Sunday evening I was like, wait a minute, I've got an exam tomorrow. I have to sit up and, I have to do something. I can't spend any more time crying. it was hard, but they came to me and they made life a lot easier because I couldn't go to them at the time. I think generally people express pity more than empathy. I don't think Ghanaians are really good at empathy. I don't think we really understand what it means to be to do that. I think we tend to feel sorry for the person and project pity rather than empathy. But the people who truly know me, who know how I like to handle issues, just have a balance. So my best friend turned sister, Beatrice came to the hospital because we were at Kolebu. She came several times. There were times she wouldn't even say a word. She would just come and she's holding wachi and she's just bringing me food. And we just eat, we don't say, she just bully me into eating because I wasn't eating very much. And then she just sit there, hang out, we would just chat as if nothing has gone wrong, as if nothing, there are days, those who know me just know how to know when I need what. So I think having that, my mother calls them the dream team, that there are people in my life who just know what I need and show up. And there were times when B would look at me and say, "This test is your storm." She sent me a song by T.D. Jakes that's titled "This Test is Your Storm," and she said, "Ichi, what the said they were being the social media I won't try. It is social ways to be try." And there were times I told myself that said social ways to be try. They never feel that I'm like, my first driving test, and they were failing okay. But all jokes aside, it was depending on what I was feeling, but at every turn, I remember Beatrice being there, and that in itself was something, because Mommy wasn't even in Ghana, so aside the guilt and the resentment and the pain and all that, I couldn't even have gone. She was, it was virtual, but B was with me at every stage in the hospital. At my most confused, and if you are holding a sick child and you're in Kolebu, you know what confusion looks like. She was there dealing with the administrative things while my husband was doing something else, and everybody was, but I was just kind of holding the baby and just being, what in the world is going on? And having that picture of somebody constantly being there, quietly sometimes in my face, sometimes, hey, you gotta get up and move. Life is, you have somebody who's dependent on you. It all depends on, but Ghanaians, when it comes to disability, it's not just pitiful. Sometimes I have people stop me to pray for me, and some of their prayers, I'm like, sometimes I close my eyes and I bow my head, and then I'm like, what did you just say to God? Because I had somebody come and pray for me, and then we were saying amen, 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 and so the person said, and if this is because of some sin that they have committed or their parents have committed, I just open my eyes, I'm like, what are you saying? I'm not going to say, I'm like, what are you talking about? Who are you praying to? Because the God I know said we're not going to pass on the sins of their fathers. I'm like, so there's you find some interesting Christian elements coming in there. You're like, somebody invited us to pray over my son at their church, and so we had so many of those which I had to be really, I said, God knows where to find me. Since you people say God knows best, and God knows you and gave you this test, and God loves you, and all of these things, these platitudes that people keep saying to you, and you're like, then God knows where to find me. So He will find me in Oyarefa. It's not too far for Him, and I won't come church to church with my son looking for prayers or so. I think that's really saved us. If I ever hear anyone took my son to a church without my permission, I would cut them off so fast they would not see my shadow again, and they knew I was not joking. And so that kind of stemmed. So we've had a lot of, but generally people tend to make you feel even worse than you were feeling. I think maybe that's part of the reason why all the mothers of special needs children I know don't really talk about their experiences. We talk about our children and how we are proud of what they've achieved, but we don't really talk about our journeys, because people will just make you feel worse. I think first off, and I want to lean forward into the camera so people can hear me clearly. Do not say it is well. It is not well, okay? Sometimes when it is not well, we have to say it because it diminishes my pain. It makes a mockery, actually, of what I feel when you come and tell me when I am crying because my son has suddenly gone blind, non-verbal, there's nothing but crying. That's really what was left. And come and tell me it is well. I will smack the black off your face. With all apologies. But as I was saying, do not say it is well with my soul. Not at that time. I think it's something that you say at some point, but we have to learn at which point it is okay to say it is well with your soul. Because when you are in that space, it isn't well. And you actually resent being told that it is well. That has been the most challenging part of my faith, my journey as a Christian, because to be faced with this and to be told it is well, I mean, these are two very conflicting spaces. So don't tell people it is well when it is not well. If you have nothing to say nothing. Sit with them, hold their hands, bring them food, show practical Christianity. Too many people said, oh, we'll pray with you. And I wondered, will you pray for me to be able to pay my bills? Will you pray for me to be able to make some soup? Will you pray for me? What are you praying for? Because when I need you, when I'm in Kolebu with my son for 2 weeks and my husband is at Oyarefa and he must make Oyarefa Kolebu trips every day, I think that you should send him some soup and say, I know that you're probably too tired to get home to cook for yourself, but if you have a bowl of stew or you have, soup there, you probably will just warm it quickly and have it. I think that if you heard that my son was on admission, it's not enough to say it is well. Show up, give of your time, your money, your creativity, something. But too many people are content with, I'll pray with you, okay, and it is well, and then they walk off, in happy, with a happy knowledge that they are not close enough to this to be affected. And also, some people make you feel, like I was saying, they make you feel worse, and they remind you of all the things that have gone wrong with your life. So recently, this 2020 has been a really unusual year for the whole world, but for me, it's been particularly unusual. And I began this year with my husband suffering a stroke in January, and then by March, there was congestive heart malfunction of his heart. And, since then we've had several episodes of I can't breathe, we are running to the hospital at 2 a.m., we are doing this, we are doing that. And, he's having gastric issues now. We don't know whether there's something cancerous there. It's a whole dramatic year for me. That I can even say it like this without crying is testament to something I do not know. But it's something. And every time people heard, because my family would hear about it, and then somebody would call me and say, oh, what bread to do, what bread to do, what bread to do. Like, well, it's not meant to comfort me because you just made me feel worse. You just reminded somebody say, and then look, first your son, and then now your husband, and I'm thinking, is this meant to go somewhere? Because I'm not sure you're doing any good. So don't remind people of how much they've lost. They know, that's why they are sad. Maybe instead come and tell me how much I have. I have a beautiful daughter. My son is still alive. He doesn't need to be in an oxygen tank to breathe. My husband can walk and move and do all of those things by himself. Remind us instead of what we have to be happy about. But do not tell me it is well.
Maame, it's such an honor having you here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for your time. I know that this is it's a big deal because it's very personal parts of yourself. Mm-hmm. And so making the decision to share with us, I don't believe was an easy one, but I'm very glad and grateful that you made that decision.
Thank you.
So listening to you, first of all, I'm wondering what made you decide to participate. What made you decide to speak up?
I think that's, we always say our world is very isolated and isolating, the world of a mother with child with special needs. And so I'm hoping that maybe a mother with a newly diagnosed child will watch this and know that the journey may be long and tough, but there are others on it, and we are happy to share. And actually, hopefully somebody actually contacts you and say, can I talk to this person? So I'm hoping that this, in a way, it reaches somebody and the person reaches out back, and we can form a community of support.
That's noble. Thank you so much for deciding to come. Now, listening to you, I sense that you've grown through your experiences, and I hear
half of it.
Yes. I mean, you have such fight in you. You fought so much, and I can sense that you're very resilient too. But I also know that there were points in your life when it felt like too much was happening at once. Now, you've mentioned, we spoke about your social support. Did you ever feel like reaching out to a professional? Or with the benefit of hindsight, do you think that it would have been helpful reaching out to a professional at the time? Or even now?
I was actually advised, someone actually asked me, do I want to speak to a psychologist? And I said, no, I don't know what I would say. I joke about with so much that it's hard to catch me and make me speak the truth about where I'm going. And at the time it was even harder because I was trying to figure out what was going on, and I said, what would I speak to somebody about? I don't know what I'm doing. I don't even understand what I'm going through. Exactly. And I'm taking each day as the sunrise and sunset. I don't have anything else, having time for anything else. So I didn't want to talk to anybody. I think I felt like it would be probing too much, and that I would be too weakened by the emotions, and I had to be strong, and I had to be, just keep moving, just don't shake. I still don't quite like the idea of a total stranger and being privy to my life, which is why I turned to my friend who's also a psychologist. And we are straddling a really awkward fence at the moment between friend and psychologist, and she keeps trying to push me to a psychologist because she says, you might not be too open with me. And I say, but if I won't be open with you, what makes you think I'll be open with her? And so I'm forcing her to take me as a client and to be objective about it, which is perhaps also not fair to her, but it's a start. And I hope that maybe one day I can have the courage to go and face a stranger and spill my guts to the stranger. But yes,
I think it's really interesting that in thinking about the fact that you are the one, you are going through a hard time. Let's put it that way. I mean, in the struggle or in your difficulty, you are still able to stay considerate of other people, not wanting to burden your family with or burden your friends.
I'm not sure if it's considerate or if it's just my conscience clawing at me right now, saying you're not being really fair. You're putting her in a place where I'm like, yeah, but life isn't fair. So.
Wow, that's candid. Okay. So then, Maame Yaa, what would you say is your most important, most solid coping tool today?
Music, I think. I think music, because this is one of the things I did last year when I had no outlet, and I realized I had to stop singing. I stopped dancing, and I'm very musically inclined. I love to sing. I love to play music. I can't play any instrument to save my life, but I said I need an outlet. I need a space that is mine. That's not mummy's. That's not the researchers. That's not friends. This is me. Play the guitar. I took up guitar classes, and I said, this is selfish time. This is. And you're playing the guitar, you can't really be worrying about anything else because your fingers are hurting so much, you can't really think about anybody else, and nobody else can call you because you're in a class. And at least it's an hour twice a week. That was mine. Every other time you can have me and do with me as you wish, but that hour was mine. And I think it really helped me to. And once I picked up enough, of the notes to be able to play a tune by myself, there would be nights where I would be so stressed and I don't want to talk to anybody, and I just pick my guitar and I sit there and I play for my son. So he'll be lying there and he'll be smiling because he loves music as well. It's a double effect of giving me something to bond with my son, but also giving me a space where I can just play for hours until my fingers they're so numb. Sometimes I feel like positively turning a positive into a negative. When some people use pain, a harder pain to cover a lesser pain, and I think that was mine. So I would play until my fingers were raw, and
sense of achievement somehow.
Is it achievement? It just gave me something else to focus on.
Right.
And I rediscovered a love for music, and I'd be now looking through my, going online looking for the chords of this song and seeing if I could find the beginner's version, and pick out it gave me something else to focus on, even if it was just 30 minutes or an hour in a day. It did something good for me. Yeah. So yeah, and jokes will be my next. So right now, with my current level of stress, my new therapy is meme therapy. I'm the meme stuff for life.
How's that working?
It's an amazing thing. The memes, I think lockdown has really brought out the creativity
I know a number of people who would agree with you.
So I go through people's statuses, and I have some meme suppliers, and I'm also a meme supplier for my friends. And sometimes I don't say anything on WhatsApp. I apologize to anybody who sent me a WhatsApp that I haven't checked in 2 weeks. I apologize. But I could actually be online and posting memes.
Yeah.
And I do that every day, like to the point where I think one of these days I had to rush my husband to the hospital. And so I hadn't been online the whole day. Somebody hit me up that evening and said, "Hey, it's been a whole day. I haven't seen a single meme from you. Are you okay?" That's how much memeing I do in a day. And some of them just make you burst out. You don't even, it's effortless. And it's not having to pay anybody to be, joking with me. It's not forced. Some of them are so absurd that the laughter just bursts forth. And I find that after going through a few people's statuses, sometimes the world just seems brighter. I've laughed so much. I'm like, yeah, well.
It's therapeutic.
Yeah, meme therapy. I mean, if I were a psychologist, I think I'd do something to meme therapy because
it's the little things,
and you don't have to. And the good thing about meme therapy is I don't have to say anything to anybody because I can just be silently looking through your statuses, and you will know I've checked. But I don't have to say hello to you if I don't. Yes, I don't have to say hello. I don't have to talk. I don't have to be drawn into, "Are you okay?" Yeah. I'm just reading and laughing and reposting for somebody else to laugh. And even that act of service, I suppose, makes me. I'm like, well, if I laughed, somebody else might laugh, and who knows who's in a hard place right now. And then I repost. So it just makes you feel like you're also being useful to somebody. So yeah, my screen time has gone up.
So screen time isn't all bad. That's good to know.
Well, if it goes with your research time, then yes.
Okay, so find a way to incorporate it into your productive time as well. Maya, can we have you share your final words with us? Maybe you could think of it as what you would tell your younger self, okay, knowing what you know now about your life.
What I would tell my 24-year-old Maame Yaa, I think it would just be breathe. Just breathe. Life is not that hard. Life is going to get so much harder. That where you are now is nowhere near where you will be. So you better learn to breathe, and just don't sweat the small stuff so much. So what if your house is dirty? It's your house, So what if you didn't iron your dress today? Some days just wear the wrinkle-free. Some days are wrinkle-free, and some days are wrinkly days, and I think that one of the mistakes I made was in trying to be perfect in everything. Like I told you about trying to be valedictorian, and I didn't make it the second time around, though. I was the best student in the law.
Thank you for letting
Thank you. fans here and there, but it's those things that you obsess over something and you don't let it go, and that's what I mean by breathe. Just sometimes you just. So what if you have a second upper? You're not going to die. You're not going to be less successful, just because you made it. Don't let those things stress you out. And my sister tells me that I'm a really harsh critic on myself. So I think that the final thing I'd say to myself would be love yourself. You're not that bad. Yeah, sure, you're not perfect, but you're not half bad. And people love you, so there must be something. Love yourself. Be good to yourself. Be kind to yourself. I think that's what I would say.
It's been such an interesting conversation, Maame Yaa.
You know how I roll. It's interesting. So.
That's why I'm happy that you made it here. Thank you for bringing out the most important points that we all need as reminders. I'm not sure if there's such a thing as loving yourself too much. If there is, we haven't reached it, because I think for most of us, we're only starting to learn how to love ourselves. And I think we should be consistent and steady in that practice. Empathy.
And not feel guilty about it. People make you feel guilty about it.
Yes, and not allow things to hold you back when you could, effectively and successfully love yourself. Engage in acts that, count towards self-love. Empathy over pity, always.
Always.
Also another area of practice. And I'm glad that you brought it up. I'm sure that most of the time when we're not doing it right, it's probably because we do not know. So it's great that we brought it out, and then we can, we can be intentional about being empathetic towards one another. And of course, maybe the most important thing is to breathe.
Just breathe.
Yes. If we've never known, if we've taken the concept of breathing, if we've not taken it seriously, I guess this year has reminded us how important it is.
But nothing actually was ever that important, because turns out when your life is at stake, that's all that is important, really.
Yes, and we've been tested this year. We've been reminded it's important to remember. And so for you to reiterate that, I think it's such an amazing thing. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. I really had a good time.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for sitting through. It's been an insightful conversation, and I look forward to you joining us on our next episode of Hearts and Minds Aloud.